Hello, music patrons. It's Gareth here, and last time I was in touch with you about a month ago, I wrote to you about a poem called Dead Reckoning, which I first started writing about a year ago, not long after doing the Camino de Santiago, where I did a lot of walking. And I read a book called In Praise of Walking, which referred to a concept called Dead Reckoning, a form of navigation. Somewhere between intuition and science. It was commonly used by seafarers in the absence of clear landmarks as a way of orienteering and finding the correct path forward. And for a long time, I've been curious what would happen if I brought my writing practice, which I see as distinct from my songwriting practice. For me, it encompasses poetry, prose poetry, straightforward prose, and what would happen if I combined that with my compositional practice. So this is a short video exploring where I'm at right now. So one of the things that I was clear from the beginning that I wanted to start with was a kind of drone. And I, without really thinking too much about it, started to create one using a loop pedal, which is just down here. And it allows me to create layers of sound. And I'm using the volume control of my guitar to kind of create a violining effect. So instead of hearing the harsh attack of the pick, you get something a bit more like an orchestral swell. And so I created it through a simple set of layering. I created a harmonic on the B string. And now the effects pedal is looping. And then I started to add other notes, like a D sharp. And then a C sharp. Then I started to think about what kinds of chords I might hang off of this drone, a bit like clothes on a washing line. And as I was improvising, I would read the poem quietly to myself to try and get a sense of the rhythm. I wasn't really searching for a melody for the words, but more just how might the chord structure develop to complement the poem. In the first stanza, I wanted to have a sense of lift, a sense of optimism, but not exactly contentment. So I started with a C sharp minor, and then a few experiments around that chord shape. And from there, up to a D sharp 7. F sharp minor, and then back to C sharp minor. So eventually I came up with a chord sequence, and I thought about, well, I need to record this now. And as you can see, I'm wearing a wrist brace. I'm having problems with repetitive strain injury. I've got a rotator cuff injury in my left arm. So actually I really shouldn't be doing very much guitar playing at the moment. So undeterred, I thought, what could be a creative solution to this? And rather than trying to play guitar throughout, like trying to do a single take where I'm constantly fretting the guitar and playing and replaying, I simply recorded clips of me playing each chord individually. So I could have just simply dropped all of those chords into Ableton and had the sound very much like a original organic guitar. But because of the the maritime navigational history of Dead Reckoning as a concept, I wanted to experiment with a kind of swelling effect, a bit like the violining effect I was talking to you about earlier on. So you'll see there's a brighter yellow column here called Guitar Treated. And what I've done is I have basically started the clip just after my fingers will have plucked the strings, so you have something a little bit softer. And I've created two mirror image columns side by side. There's this yellow and then this lime green, and each of them have slightly different effects. Both of them have echo, and both of them have things to kind of create a sense of grain and distortion and dirt. But the guitar on the left hand side is a little bit brighter and a bit closer to the original guitar sound than the lime green one, which is a bit more of a watery, aqueous sound. And I've done that by adding a kind of filter which emphasizes the low end of the sound. The best thing for me to do is to just play it so you can hear the difference. So C sharp minor in the yellow. And then got a bit of echo there. This is the lime green one. So as I recreate the chord sequence in Ableton, I have a launch pad here, and it's a grid, and each button corresponds with a clip. Down here you've got the yellow and lime green chords side by side, and to recreate the chord progression I simply would press each one in sequence. Or I could jam with them in unexpected ways. So I've got the drone in the background. To create a bit of variety, I've added some auto panning, which sends the audio signal from left to right, and I've introduced a kind of flickering quality through a thing called side chaining, side chain compression. There's actually in the background, you can't hear it, there is a recording of an Enya song, which I've muted, but the various peaks and troughs of that audio, the higher that sound is, the quieter it makes the drone. There is no reason why it's an Enya track. I just wanted to add some flickering effect, and it was the first clip I could find. But anyway, recreating the chord sequence. And I can mess around with the levels of the two guitars. Messed that up a little bit. To scroll down. The danger with Ableton though is that you can always be introduced to new ideas. One thing that I've discovered which may really mess up with my planned chord progression is what happens when you start adding different chords together, like an E add 9 with a B. It sounds beautiful. Or what about F sharp minor with B6. And if you mess around with the mixing of them, it's incredibly dangerous for a composer. It's a little bit like the Odyssey with Ulysses going past the sirens and threatening to draw him to shipwreck. Terrible stuff. And of course, the last thing that you might be wondering is, where are the words? And I haven't done them yet. I don't really know whether to approach them as spoken word and to ignore melody, or whether to try and introduce a kind of sung-spoken quality to them. It's all to be experimented with, but I was conscious that I wanted to send something, so you can see what I'm up to in this new phase of my career, where I'm exploring what I want to make and what interests me, as opposed to constantly responding to briefs. Which leads me to say thank you very much for giving me the freedom to do that. I'd love to hear any feedback on the video and how I'm keeping you updated with my work, and any responses that you've got to the sounds as they're evolving. I'm well aware that the quality is probably not the best, because I'm recording this on a GoPro, which has, I think, a good mic, but doesn't quite beat being able to hear something properly produced and mixed and mastered. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon.